This video is going to be a basic guide to the catacombs in New World. And yes, I say catacombs, not catacombs. That's because I'm British and we pronounce things the way we sort of feel like. The Catacombs is a new game mode introduced in Season 10, and it's basically like a procedurally generated dungeon that you join, and there's 3 people who go through it, and the goal is to kill as many bosses as you can before you leave or before the time runs out. You have 30 minutes before the time actually runs out. The Catacombs is actually a physical place in Nighthaven. Probably a lot of people won't go here, but you can actually see it's on the map right here. But you really don't need to do this. Yes, you can come here, and yes, you can sort of run over to the door, and it's pretty much exactly the same as going through the activity menu. But, you know, it's like one extra button and you actually need to come here and there's no real purpose. What most people will probably do when they join is to hit the escape menu, go into activities, and it's over my head, I think. Right here, the Catacombs. Now you can queue up for this as a solo player, duo, or a trio. Now it does say that the requirements are plus 65 in levels with a maximum of 3, because you obviously can't queue up with 4 or more. I would really recommend that you join as a level 70 with some newish gear, and the available rewards will be these 2 currencies. Now we'll come back to these. The more valuable of these 2 are the mythic crowns. These you'll buy some of this new set bonus gear, the overcharge set and the elementally charged set, and these you will buy effectively random loot boxes. They're both actually random loot boxes, and I'll show you what you do with these after the run. Now when you actually sign up, I'm going to go in here with 3 people just so I can make this video. I didn't want to actually bring in randomers because then they would be waiting for me. These people I've already told what I'm doing, and that is making this video. You'll click play and it'll say pick your role. You need to do this. You can pick damage dealer, tank, or healer. Obviously if you're a healer you need to have focus and a life staff. Weirdly, I'm actually going to pick tank, even though I'm going to be playing a light armor tank. Builds are sort of all up in the air. A lot of people will say that the blunderbuss is probably the strongest weapon, and it might be, but you'll simply pick your role, and then when everybody's done that, we'll head on in. It'll just be like any normal instance queue. You'll press F1, you'll go straight in, and you get to look at some cool art. Now the first thing you know when you start, the timer doesn't start yet, okay? It only starts when you leave the room. What you're going to want to do is come over to this box here. This box right here is the abandoned supplies, and it's the erosion tonic. Now the reason that this is important is because you're going to want to put this on your bar, on your consumable bar, so make sure you do that. And you're going to want to buff up as normal in this room. So I can't remember exactly what I'm going to take. I'm just going to take my holding stone, which I'm running out of, my food buff, which you don't really need to know, but it's a con food buff, and the desert sunrise. Basically, I would also tell your team that you're going to do like this thing where you actually don't do the bosses until you've scoured the map. That appears to be the best way of doing this. You press M. When you start, you can't see very much. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go, and there'll be various different types of rooms. Now the 2 currencies that I mentioned already as you go on the enter screen, they're in the top right, but there's also a currency in the bottom right, which is basically souls. You're going to want these. Now you can have any combination here. You can have tanks, DPSs, whatever. You can respec when you're inside, and you're going to come to these rooms. Now this specific room is a room where we have to clear out these bosses in waves. I say bosses, they're just NPCs. They'll just keep spawning, we'll keep killing, and yeah, it just goes like that. It's pretty simple, right? I'm not going to be playing very well because I'm recording this video, but once you've done that room, you'll be able to press this. All the rooms are going to be a little bit different, but I want to bring your attention to these. These boxes will either be more erosion supplies, or they'll be sterlings, which are the sort of lesser of the 2 main currencies. The thing with this is, you see this bar on my screen right here? That's your erosion. Effectively, when it gets to max, you start taking damage. So you're going to want to have these erosion potions on your bar, and you're going to want to use them at the appropriate time. Now you would be going as quick as you can because there's a timer in the top right, but as I said, this time we're not doing. Now we can't tell which way to go, so we're just going to send it to a variant of, you know, either north or south. You can maybe get better at picking which way to go, you know, when you've mastered it, but yeah, the plan is just to go. I don't know if it's really worth trying to go up here and pick these up, especially if you're trying to do a speed run. But if you're not speedrunning, you can come and get these. They could be some of these sterling amounts. These rooms here, this one here is specifically just a jumping puzzle basically. Now I want to bring your attention to the top left. You have 9 instant respawns when you die. If you try to instant respawn too many times, it will literally just be the end of the run for you, right? That's it. You can respawn slowly, but to be honest, I'm not 100% sure how that works. But yeah, each room is basically just going to be slightly different. Come inside, kill the mobs, and you'll see I get some of those souls in the bottom right. Can't remember the exact name of them off the top of my head. Let me just make sure I don't die to the mechanic. Splintered souls. Then in some rooms, this will spawn, the Idol of Ascension. This basically buffs your character. I think it gives you pure damage and health, and it requires 100. You just want to use this as many times as possible. There's no reason not to, basically. So I would just come over here and press E. If you watch my health, it's going to go up. And I think this is going to boost my damage as well. I mean, just mouse over it. Yeah, damage increased as well, health increase, and you can stack it up to 18 times. Look for any loot boxes, there's not, so you just keep going. And actually, the next room is very interesting as well. In the next room, you're going to come to these statues where they're like laid out like this. These are just free buffs. Now, there's a variety of different ones. I'm not going to go through them all. You basically want to pick one here that sounds like it's going to buff your character. So let's say you, or buff your group, I should say. Let's say you don't have a healer. Often, sometimes there's one where it'll be like hitting the enemies drops a heal ball and stuff like that. Here, there's not really anything that's that interesting. This mana one's actually kind of interesting. If I take it, for example, and then I take a mana potion, I just took one of them and I don't actually know what it did. I thought it was going to be the one that shielded me, but I misread it. It actually just gives me empower, right? This symbol here on the map, this is the boss, and typically you want to make sure you're going to discover all of the bosses. Now the game mode is designed that you go to the boss, you kill the boss, and then you go to the next boss, and the goal is to get as many as you can before you leave, upwards with a maximum of 6 basically. But we're not really necessarily going to do that because there's a little bit of a better way. Now what's interesting here, we found one of the problems. Sometimes these are going to be locked and you need to press a lever. So this is the symbol for a boss, this is the symbol for a lever. Normally if there's a locked door, there'll be a lever next to it within the vicinity, right? So that's what we're going to go and do. There are little traps like that, I didn't see that coming. There'll be little traps sometimes in the air where they're like little, well I say little, there's big giant swinging axes that will hit you, so you need to be careful with the traps and stuff like that. Where is the switch? In here. The switch is here. You press this and now you would be able to go back to the boss and do it, right? That is one thing that we could do. We could absolutely do that. The reason we're not going to do that though is we would like to get stronger, and actually the more efficient way is typically to just go ahead and explore the dungeon, ignoring the traps and stuff like that, getting more of these souls and basically making your character more powerful so the bosses are easier. And honestly, the exploration is just generally easy to do these while they're level 1, because once you kill the boss, everything buffs up, right? So let's say you kill one boss, all of these trash mobs and stuff like that, they all level up. So if you kill the boss and then try and get to boss 2, it's going to take you longer than it would that if you just went to boss 2. So a lot of people, and the main strategy basically is going to be just to explore the whole map. Now the only downside to that basically is that it's time consuming running back to the bosses. But again, the advantage is that you get through it quicker. Also, doing this actually causes you to respawn. Like if we die now, we will respawn here. In fact, let's go north. There's a little bit more of an interesting one there. Often in these little corridors, there's a little bit of a trap, sometimes on the roof, sometimes it's just those flamethrowers. And the rooms themselves are different. There are some interesting rooms where there are little there's like a lever that you can pull on the wall that unlocks a secret room. If I get to show you that, I will. One of the Arcana cards are in here apparently. These are little boxes that I was talking about, these sterling bags. Effectively, you just get free currency, and you might as well. And you can see how my erosion's going up. So if I take one of these erosion potions, you'll see how it goes down. Having that be maxed basically creates a lot of damage to you, so it's very much worth not getting that maxed if you can. There's a chance when you look at the map here, we might be going around in a square, which would not be particularly very good, but is definitely something that could be happening. And sometimes you're just going to get RNG'd, right? Sometimes you are just going to play the game and you're going to get wrecked with the RNG. You can use the traps to kill the bosses, by the way, or the NPCs. You can absolutely do that. At the minute, there's a couple of bugs with some rooms that don't work, etc. But overall, I think it's a really fun mode. Now, if I'm honest, I'm pretty convinced we're going around in a square here. And I'm pretty convinced we've made a terrible mistake, which would be very bad for our run if the team didn't already know what we were doing. So what I've done there is basically an example of something that you do not want to do, right? We just wasted time because I picked the wrong path. And we've gone into, not a dead end, but just a pointless path. Now, I saw that coming earlier, And I would have not done that if I was doing the video. If I wasn't doing the video, I would have just gone back and just, you know, took my chances the other way. But you just have to keep an eye on the map. You're just going to have to keep pressing it and see where you're going. Make sure you don't go any dead ends. So for now, I know pretty much that that's probably not going to be... Well, it might be a dead end because sometimes you just have like some of the stones there that buff your character. But that's a possibility of exploration. And this is a possibility of exploration. There's nothing else apart from maybe beyond the boss. Sometimes you can go beyond the boss, like, if that makes sense. So we'll see what happens. But that's basically just the RNG that you get. We're just going to keep exploring right now. And then we'll talk more about the currencies and the rewards at the end. If anything interesting pops up before we start doing the bosses, I'll show you. Well, actually, before I do that, let's talk about team comps. A lot of the team comps right now are favouring the blunderbuss. Specifically because the blunderbuss is absolutely popping damage. Ranged is popping, bows are popping. Just a lot of damage from the blunderbuss and the and any range weapon right now. You can play, I say I'm playing this tank, I literally have a carnelian in my blunderbuss, which is a bit crazy, but you've just got to rely on the fact that you can dodge. A lot of teams are actually rocking semi sort of like medium tanks, or they're rocking heavy tanks with maybe like the great sword so that they can pump a bit of damage and be blocking while they're pumping damage. The team comps are a little bit all over the place. I'm sure the meta will settle down, and whatever I tell you now is probably going to be different in a couple of days, so I don't want to say play a specific build, but you're probably either a tank, a healer, or a DPS. And honestly, I think healers are getting a little bit of the raw end of the stick. That doesn't sound right, but they're getting a little bit shafted basically because you don't really need them. A lot of the ascent stones that you can pick up may actually like make it so that you can heal yourself. I'm using a lot of leeching as well so that I can survive. If I do get hit, I can like get my own health back. So team comps are all over the place. It's obviously better if you're running a pre-mage, you'll have a better time. Because apparently, you know, if you just go randomly, you've got people all different kinds of levels, all different kinds of strength and stuff like that. But you want to make sure you come to these stones every time, because now we're going to ascend and make our characters even stronger. Well, Kelly is disconnected, which means this is a two-man run, because there are massive queues right now. But yeah, if you do a random pickup group, what can happen is, I mean, the first time I did it, we were 2 level 70s. We queued up and we got a level 65, and it was just a massive challenge. I felt really bad on the guy because he's just like, I just came to see what it's like. And it's like, you know what? Fair enough. Makes sense. Either just jumping puzzles. If you fall in the green stuff here, you die. I'm kind of curious what will happen if O'Kelly gets DC'd here, because the game apparently is supposed to backfill people, which is really not what I would like while I'm recording the video. I think picking the tank role with carnelians may not have been my most sensible decision whilst I was trying to record this. It needs a bit more concentration than I think just a DPS role, but you know, it is what it is. I'm failing miserably. But look, I've got eroded, which means I would take a lot of damage, but I'm just going to pop a erosion potion and get rid of it. Might as well do these as often as you can. There's literally no reason not to. And it's the same with these. If you can find one that benefits your character, do it. Sometimes you won't, and sometimes you shouldn't. Like this one, if I was an actual proper tank, I would deal less damage, but I would heal my allies. That would be pretty good. I'm going to do it. Keep Sonic's alive. He needs the help. There's quite a few different types of rooms. This is one where it's going to be like, we're going to activate the lever. There's going to be either fire or whirlpools. And you just have to, well, this one's actually a lightning and a whirlpool. You just have to stay out of it. And it's just basically, make sure you don't stand in the, really funny that I've literally got myself deaded. Don't do that. Don't get in the whirlpool. These are normally very easy. They're a little bit more challenging when you're distracted. But normally it's just stay out of the circles on the ground, stay out of the whirlpool. And I keep running into the whirlpool. I suck at this game, honestly. I'm so bad. So these are pretty easy. You just stay out of the circles. Nothing crazy. It shouldn't be a massive challenge. I did get hit. I went into the whirlpool like an idiot, but just avoid them. And then we found our second boss. Now you would, in theory, if you were going to pump this, right, if you're going to be a proper big pumper, you would actually go scouring for multiple bosses. A good amount to do. Mostly you can probably get away. You can probably do 3, right? If you're just starting, try and aim for 2 simply, and then if you're getting a little bit better, do 3. 4 for a lot of people is a little bit of a challenge. 5 and 6 are for the pumpers who probably are not watching this video. But this is a boss. These are where the challenges happen. They don't start until you go into the circle, and then when you do, it's kickoff time, and you gotta blow up the boss basically. I can't explain every single boss's mechanics, but typically they're from dungeons already. Like I think this character is actually from the new raid, and yeah, you just gotta kill them. There's the various different ways you can kill them. Various different adds, very different mobs. A lot of the bosses you will probably be familiar to you if you've played a lot of New World already. There's bosses from, say, what's it called? Savage Divide. There's bosses from Empyrean Forge and all sorts, basically. Now, if one of you triggers that, it will actually cause you to exit. It'll trigger a sequence, but we're not going to do it. We're going to try and get to the next boss and kill that. I'm hoping we will kill the next boss, and I'll show you the extraction then. Don't forget, if you're running past one of these and you've got enough of the souls, make sure you boost yourself. There's literally no reason not to. And that's the whole strategy. Typically, you run around every room, getting as many souls as you can, buffing yourself, getting even quicker. Then you just run back where you've already been and do the bosses. Now, obviously, we're doing 2 of us because one, I was actually trying to explain what this is, and we've actually had somebody join us, which is going to be very interesting. Now, we were only planning on doing 2 of these bosses, but the people knew what I was doing. Like the pre-made that I went in, I told them that this was going to be the case. However, one of them is DC'd, and we've actually been backfilled. Now, I don't know about Big Huss. I don't know anything about him or her, but I actually want to extract after 2, and I feel a little bit bad that somebody's been brought into this that they didn't mean to, but I want to show you nonetheless. We're just going to do 2, and then we're going to extract. An interesting point that I hadn't really thought of, there's a good chance that Big Huss is now just behind. We've actually been given a few extra spawns. I don't really know why that is, but yeah, we're going to get into this boss room, and I'm going to tell Big Huss that we're just going to do 2 and leave. Sorry for the inconvenience, basically. So Big Huss is in the room with him. I've just said, you know, we're going to do 2 and bail, basically. But this is another boss. It's the one that we went back on. And as I said, you would go back and do all the old bosses. Now I've got aggro because weirdly I have a Carnelian gem. So we killed him. And the next bit is going to be triggering this, the extraction. Now the extraction is going to start. Basically, your time stops as soon as you hit the extraction. As soon as you start it. So you could be on 1 second left. And if you hit the extraction, it basically stops the timer. You basically just press E on it, then there's another timer and it says survive for a minute. And actually, this can be relatively challenging, but the thing is, you don't necessarily need to kill anything and everything. You can just wait for the timer and then get out. You don't need to kill everything. I've heard rumors that it actually gives you a little bit of benefit, but often it can be a little bit challenging. People maybe just like a little bit tired, a little bit fatigued and stuff like that. So you don't need to kill everything. All you need to do is to wait for the timer to go down and then get out. The more of you get out, the better the rewards. I think you get like I think it might be a 20% extra reward if you all get out. So it's definitely worth trying to get out. I mean, you need at least one person to get out. I don't know what the punishment is if none of you get out, but you basically lose everything if you don't get out. There's a very small reward if you don't get out, but you need at least one of you to extract, otherwise you're basically wrecking yourself. And we'll try and get Big Hustle. We could actually just res at this point. A free res at this point isn't that bad. Once the portal changes to that, you have another minute to just walk into the circle, right? I'm getting wrecked by this Ravager, but you have another minute to just walk in. You can kill everything, you don't have to. I don't really think it makes a difference, to be honest, but we'll do it here just to show you that you can actually just kill everything. In fact, they just keep spawning, so let's just go in the middle. Oop, I just went in the middle anyway. I sort of dodged into it. Then you get this little cutscene. Then we're going to get a screen that says victory. The souls don't matter. You can fail it if you don't extract, obviously. And then you get this screen that shows you the rewards. Now, the mythic crowns, I'm not 100% sure how many it is. I think it's probably, I think it might be 0 for one boss, but it's 2 for the first boss. I think for 3, it's 5. For 4, it's 15. I'm not sure about 5. I think for 6, it's 69, which is funny. Now, it just tells you here how many you got, how many sterlings you got, how many crowns you got. And it's based on how many bosses that were slain, how many players are extracted. You get like an extra 20+% bonus. I don't really know if that applies to the mythic crowns because I've personally only done a 4, but it's obviously going to be applying to the mythic sterlings. Now let me show you what you do with them. Once you exit, you'll just come back to the place you were when you went in. Now, the Catacombs vendor is in the main town in Nighthaven, Tuggerest Abbey Village. You're going to fast travel there or set your in there and recall. It basically goes to the exact same room, so setting your in there is completely fine. Now, this room is often packed like this. So when you get here, you're basically going to want to find this guy right here, which is the, he's got the catacomb symbol over his head. The inn also teleports you here, is right here. You'll click him and there's a various different set of reward boxes. Now, these top 2 you can pretty much ignore. There's no extra tabs or anything like that, but you can ignore these. These are just used in crafting. The value doesn't seem like it's going to be very high, so I wouldn't buy to sell or anything like that, but you know, you never know, the price might change. And then there's just different types of loot boxes. You have ones that you can buy for sterling, which is the relatively common currency, and then you have ones that you can buy for crowns, which are not the common currency. the rare ones. The first ones are sterling, as I said, then it goes into crowns, and then there's some skins at the bottom that are crowns. Now, basically, these boxes are loot biased. So to explain, let's say I buy a chest piece of armor right here. You can set the slider, but I'm just going to buy one for the sake of this. Then as we open this, it should be loot biased because it says light, medium, or heavy, but it basically depends on what you're wearing. So I'm in light armor, but my chest piece is actually nimble. Granted, it's a bad version of nimble because this was just a setup for this video. So I expect when I open this, it should be a medium chest piece because that is what I'm wearing. If you want heavy, make sure you're wearing heavy. If you want light, make sure you're wearing light. So let's open it up and see what we get. And it is indeed a medium piece of armor. Actually not a bad piece of armor. Now this is the problem with the sterling boxes. So the sterling boxes are basically gear that you can get from chest runs, gear that you can get from the Sun Farm, M1s, and just a variety of different places. And it's all just random stuff like that. The problem is, like a chest run, for example, will give you loads and loads of chances of getting something good. This one, it's actually not that bad. Doesn't have a gem slot, so I'd probably trash it. But you know, your mileage may vary. The good thing is that you can buy lots of them because you get a lot of that currency as you do the Catacombs runs. The more interesting sets come when you're spending crowns. Now, right at the bottom, you can actually just buy some skins. They're 10 a piece. If you want those skins, go ahead and buy them. They look cool. I wouldn't buy them yet. I would actually make sure you concentrate on the overcharge set, but we'll explain what that is in a minute. The overcharge set is basically a set bonus gear, and if you have 3 pieces, you basically get these stacks of extra damage, okay? A lot of people use them in PvE. Some people don't like it because once you get hit, they go away. It is what it is. They also have the elementally charged set, which basically says if you have like a magic weapon and a non-magic weapon, you can stop these charges and your non-magic weapon will do a lot of damage. I would recommend typically the overcharged trinket and the overcharged boots. That seems to be what people are doing. Now, it is worth knowing that they are loot biased. So your weapons, for example, let's say you have a great axe and a warhammer, you'll get both of them. But let's say you only want a warhammer, then remove the great axe, okay? They're loot biased to whatever you have equipped, and you can sort of cheese that in a way. But these sets are also loot biased, basically. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to buy an elementally charged piece of gloves. It should be a light piece, and it cost me 10 of these crowns. You can see there is 10. I could buy 2, but I'm just going to buy 1 at a time. So I'll buy that. Obviously, ask you if you want to confirm. And then let's open that box. Now, it should be loot biased. It should be light gloves because that's what I have equipped. Some terrible light gloves. Don't judge me. So let's do it and see what we get. I expect light gloves, gear score 760. Obviously, you can upgrade with the Umble Shards. And it should have some of the set bonus gear. Now, let's have a look, and you can see here we have some of the set bonus gear, and it's got 3 perks. I think one of those might be random. I'm not 100% sure. You'd have to check on something like New World Database, but you can see at the bottom, I have the set bonus set, which is desirable. There's only 3 types of locations you can get set bonuses. Catacombs is one, the PvP track is another, and the new raid is the 3rd. And I think that's everything you need to know about Catacombs. If you really want to pump it and find builds and stuff like that, you know, you're ready for the next step, I would recommend looking at blunderbuss, but there's also like rapiers are pumping, balls pumping, muskets pumping. A lot of stuff is good in there. I would just be reluctant to play something like medium damage or even a healer, sadly, because people want to blast through and try and get as many as you can. The key tip is obviously just to clear it out before you do the bosses and then go back on yourself to do the bosses. If you're going for like max reward, that's probably the strat. There's another couple of cheesy strats where you can all try and kill the first boss at the same time, 3 different people doing 3 different bosses. It's a little bit challenging to do that, but you know, if you're a pro, do it. The other strat is instead of grouping together and going around the whole Catacombs, you could actually all split up. But what you lose there is speed, but that can lead to a little bit of discoordination. So you got to pick and choose. I like just going out with all 3 of you, clearing the whole thing and then going back on yourself. If you find a better strat than that, that's fine. But yeah, that's the basics of the Catacombs. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think they're cool? I think they're cool. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.